Okay, welcome to our webinar today, Modernize Your IBM Screens with Crossroads RMC and Rocket Software. My name is Kathy Bartheldt, and I'm responsible for sales and marketing at Crossroads RMC, and I will be the webinar moderator today. During today's webinar, we will show you how you can modernize your critical business applications through the use of Rocket's LegaSuite solutions. Through the use of this tool set, green screens can be transformed to have a modern, easy-to-use, and intuitive look and feel, similar to what most of us experience with consumer-based applications that we use in our everyday lives. Our presenters today are Anthony Etzel from Crossroads RMC and Dave Cushman from the Morrison Brothers. Anthony is a solution executive with Crossroads RMC. He works with I-Series customers on a daily basis to understand their manufacturing and operational challenges and deliver solutions and services to improve their businesses. Dave Cushman Jr. is a project manager with Morrison Brothers. Morrison Brothers is a major producer of petroleum marketing equipment in the United States and abroad. Morrison Brothers uses Infor LX and the Crossroads MES solution. Dave has responsibility for the implementation of the Crossroads MES solution at Morrison Brothers. Also on the phone today is Frank Petrazio, the director of our IBMi consulting group, and Greg Belkin, senior product marketing manager from Rocket Software, in case you have any questions that they would be best suited answering. With that, I would like to turn it over to Anthony Etzel to begin the presentation.
Thank you. And before we start our presentation, I'm going to ask Dave Cushman to tell us a little bit about how they're currently using the Rocket software, not through our MES customizations, but going into the LX application and what they're doing with that in a particular unique way. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, thank you, Tony. Just I guess a quick background behind how we're using it is before we implemented our Crossroads, we used LX and directly entered our information into the green screen. And one of the cumbersome activities was inventory transferring on the floor. So one of our workarounds prior to Crossroads was we had LX allocate directly to our stocking warehouse. And as items were back flushed through the routings, they would take the inventory directly out of its stock location. And it worked okay because our shop floor is relatively small, our jobs were relatively short, so we didn't have like jobs running for days pulling inventory out of different stocking locations, but we didn't have like a clear snapshot picture of where inventory was at a given time. And when we moved to Crossroads, this kind of became more apparent, where Crossroads would allocate inventory based on the first location given from LX, but would not continue and find additional locations based on where it was allocated in LX. And so we were driving locations negative in the system, and we're looking for a solution to that. So we looked at possibly some program changes, but Tony basically came to me and came with a solution where we could utilize the existing Rocket software GUI interface and strip down a LX user license, and using a barcode scanner and barcode labels, we could do our inventory transfers as we were physically moving the product with relatively little additional training and cost to the individuals on the shop floor. And so we implemented it, and essentially it was a zero cost change, literally like an hour or two of training and a little bit of work on the back end, back end with the routings. And I went down with, we had a Surface Pro that we used Crossroads on, and worked with the individual who did the bulk of the inventory transfers on the floor for literally 20-30 minutes. She picked it up, and she's been doing it ever since for the last, I'd say, about 9 months or so. So I guess, is that clear enough start, Tony?
That was perfect, Dave. What Dave is actually doing is he's using the Rocket software over an LX mass inventory transfer program, which I'll demonstrate a little bit more in our presentation today. Crossroads RMC has been partnered with the LegaSuite Rocket Corporation for well over 15 years now. We sought out different companies to help us put a modernized look over top of our MES green screen solution. And we found their solution to be the best to work with. And we use a customization tool over top of our MES green screens that changes it to give it a more GUI-ized application presentation. People are looking at tablets and things, and they like to hit little icons. But we can use the GUI over top of any IBMi RPG type application, and it allows you to be green screen or not, GUI based or not, based on what the user wants to do. You might have some old timers that just want the green screen, but your newer workforce, they want something that's a little bit easier, point and click, and certainly Rocket is the way of getting there. We find it to be the easiest deployment of screen modernization of any product out there. Some things to consider. I'm sure many of you may have considered changing your green screen applications to a more modern look. Perhaps you looked at other products, you might have tried a few things, but again, the most efficient and easiest one that we found is the Rocket. And you may have tried other screen modernization tools. You might have gone down a path and found out it was just a large overhead for IT, a lot to get up and running, and probably abandon that project. Today we're going to show how we've used the customizations of this tool over top of our software, but we're going to focus mostly on out-of-the-box Rocket. Going to launch that puppy out, and we're going to show you GUI screen options that run over your existing green screen applications that the user can control how they want that screen to look. So with that said, I'm going to end this PowerPoint for now, and I'm going to just drop right over to our screens. This first screen that you're seeing, which is a Crossroads screen, and you can see it's got large GUI clocks, green clocks, red clocks, colorful helmets, magnifying glass. This is the Rocket application running with what we call GUI customization. This is really a menu option, green screen menu. Clock is one, option 2, option 3. I'm going to come back to this towards the end of the presentation and show you a little bit more dynamics about if you want to go one step beyond simple GUI presentation. So I'm going to minimize this for now. Now what we're looking at, and I'm running this over top of our LX application, and I have it set up right now where you can see a typical LX green screen. Some companies take and they don't like the black and they don't like the green and they change colors, such as what I've done here. However, you still have a green screen functionality with your function keys across the bottom and your actions to select menus and whatnot still require keyboarding effort. For example, if I wanted to go to multi-mode manufacturing, I could select it from over here and say, let me get the multi-mode manufacturing. So I had to touch the keyboard and I had to make a selection. Versus on the Rocket, to go to multi-mode manufacturing, I merely highlight it, select it, I'm there. You're more of a point and click driven type of a scenario. Now I'll show you a little bit about the Rocket software that the users can do on their own. For example, they can come up into their settings. I am currently running what I call list box with push buttons. I could change this setting, and the user could change their setting. I'll just go to simple GUI. I'm at a simple GUI screen. This one does not have the push button option, but it gives you similar presentation to what you have over on the typical green screen. I prefer my setting with list box with push buttons. So I find it to be the easiest to navigate around. Now what happens with this, function keys have disappeared across the bottom of the screen. Those function keys are now a drop down up at the top. So instead of having to use the keyboard and press a function key, you can use your drop down and select your function keys from across the top, which is a lot easier to do. Of course, you could still type in any application that you want, like INV. It'll go there. And the same would work on a green screen and go there. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to demonstrate how this GUI screen really worked well for the Morrison brothers to do those stock transfers. We can call it the easy data capture solution without a sophisticated data capture in your warehouse. transfers are the most effective transaction track inventory. So I'm selecting mass location transfers, and I'll select that. Now once, this is typical, and I can bring this over on green screen as well. And you're going to see the same from and to warehouse and so forth. But over on the GUI side, with your barcodes, they can actually put in their from and to warehouse. And that's going to take me straight away to the screen where they're going to do the transfer. They can scan the item number from a box, they can key it in, or a label. I'll put my item number in. Where am I taking that item from? Scan it from the rack, drive over to where I'm going to put it and put it away, and how many. Now I've completed that transaction. Whoops, warning, transaction will force inventory, and you can see at the bottom, it'll force it to be below 0 for that transaction. That's okay, I'm going to let it go through. And up at the functions, I'm just going to say, accept my transaction. No, it's not going to let me do that. Hold on. Let me do it, reverse it the other way. Go from T3, and I'm going to take it to, I was playing with this earlier and depleted some inventory. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and accept my transaction. So my transaction's been accepted, and what I can do is I can go over to my material status inquiry very quickly, and again with my function keys, material status with the GUI gives you the option of looking at your filters. Anything with a green background are filters where I can select an item or facility. I'm just going to go up into my functions. I'll hit my more key. I go to my functions for history, and I can see my history of the transactions that are out there, particularly the one that, you know, the transactions for this particular item. I can go to the item that I was playing with, and this is the transfer that just occurred. So the GUI gives you a few different ways of presenting your data, and let's go back over to green screen and look at IMV 300, the same program that I was using over here. And I'm going to change that item number. And I'm going to do my Shift F9. Your data is basically presented the same way that LX is going to present it, or your ERP screens are going to present it, but it puts a nicer presentation around that screen. So now I'm going to come back out of here. I'm going to exit this program until I come out of this transfer function and go to, say, for SFC, shop floor control. If you're doing anything with shop floor control or any, you know, you can merely select, highlight, select. Now I have action keys across the top here. So if I want to put an order number in, I can key in an order number like 1042. My action keys have all lit up. And I can say, you know, go there, display it, and I can go into my displays for that particular order. I can go to functions, and I can look at my material. I want to go down, display that material. Back up to functions, do more keys, and just cancel out of that. So the GUI screen, it comes out of the box, and it plays over top of your LX green screens or any LX RPG application that you have, and it automatically maps your function keys and puts your screen presentations in. It follows the standard basic rules that the IBMi programming standards follows for putting in function keys and action keys. Frank, is there anything else you would like me to show these folks today?
Tony, I just wanted to mention that you're just showing it from a regular terminal display, but the Rocket also works over a tablet and other devices that are more portable as well, mobility.
That's correct. At the Morrison Brothers are using a Surface Pro tablet on the forklift with a tethered scanner to do those inventory transactions. And you saw how simple it was to go from making those data entries instead of writing it down on a piece of paper, handing it in and giving it to somebody to keyboard. The beauty of this is ease of navigation without, worrying about fumbling and shifting for function keys. You have your ease of navigation through this application.
Tony,
What I'm
one
gonna-
other thing, if I
Go ahead.
One more thing I'd like to interject as well is that you're showing the standard LX screens here for BPIC just because that's, the background for our presentation today. But the other thing to mention is if folks are just writing their own systems in either ILE or COBOL or whatever the case may be, base applications on an I-series, and the user has the authority to use those, and they're also a Rocket subscribed user, they will just by default get picked up and brought into that GUI base as well.
Any terminal that has this GUI on it absolutely will get picked up on that. Now I'm going to show you, okay, and press enter to continue. And let me go to 1. This is our own application. This is Crossroads Green Screen. We're no longer in LX. Okay? And this screen here is really a representation of that screen. So what we've done is we've taken it one step further. There's my clock in and clock out, my job in and job out, and all of the functions that would be on green screen have now been put together with larger icons, larger print to make it easier. This was designed for a shop floor application where they would merely touch the option they would run, put in who they are, and it takes it now. These are all action keys on the left-hand side. If I wanted to highlight a line, my action keys became activated. My function keys are across the top, and I can do additional things, all point and click. So whether you want to take it to the next level and do customizations with the customization tool over top of your screens, or you just want to keep your simple GUI screens through the Rocket software and let your users come in and select what setting they would want. Again, very easy to select your settings. There's several different settings out here that you can use. If I do a data view setting, shows me data view. Come up with my file. But again, I said I like list box. There's a list box with buttons, or I can have, my favorite one is the list box with the push buttons. So everything becomes point and click. It's that simple. There's not a lot to show. So we'll leave, I got about 2:20 now. We'll open it up for any questions that folks might have regarding this solution.
If you have a question, please unmute your phone to ask it to the appropriate presenter.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
Well, this is Greg. While we're waiting for questions, I just thought it might be useful to interject one fact that I think your audience would appreciate, that all this is done without any coding changes to your original, your core system. I think that's a really important point to realize. That's what pushes a lot of people away or creates a lot of angst when modernizing a system. But with Rocket, there's no code changes. It sits on top of a solution. No code changes.
Yeah, good point, Greg. Yeah, it sits right on top of your existing solutions. No code changes required. However, if you want to go from this to this, you can do that. Or if you want to go from this to a real pretty picture, you can certainly do that. This requires what we call GUI customization, how I want to present the GUI screen versus the options that are given to you out of the box with these screen settings down here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tony, this is Jeff Crossley with LabConco. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Jeff? It's been a while since we spoke.
Doing well. Hey, just got a couple questions pertaining to how does this product, does it replace WebTop? Does it work with WebTop? We don't need WebTop at this point?
It's basically a WebTop replacement. You can get rid of WebTop if you want and use this. It's a much easier solution, and it doesn't take a lot of IT support to get it up and running.
Okay. And then if we're striving to bring our environment to a vanilla environment, and that's most software manufacturers they're wishing you wouldn't change the code. They're frowning on giving you source code. If we were to move in that direction, and I don't see the light at the end of our tunnel yet becoming vanilla, but that's where we're striving. If that happens, how does this fit within, say, Infor's cloud version of LX or what have you?
Again, it plays over top of any of the RPG style programs that you're going to be running. It's in your library list. And I know from your environment, you do have some customized things that you run. This would play straight away over top of your customized programs that you have. Don't have to do a thing to them.
Right. And if we're looking to remove those customizations and strive to become vanilla, does that deter us from meeting that objective by using this Rocket GUI interface?
That's a good question. Really, we could take that offline and talk about that more specific to what you're looking to do. But yeah, we can follow up with a phone call.
Very well. That's pretty much what I had. Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending. Any other questions?
Anybody else have any questions? Again, this is user-based. So again, like Tony mentioned earlier, that you can have some users, if they want green screen, they can stay that way. If one department wants to go GUI, you can do it like that. It's an iSeries product that sits on your iSeries, and it's user-based. So when they sign in, it's in your library list, like Tony said, so that it picks up, who should be GUI, who should be green screen, and it just flows it that way. And like Greg said, there's no conversion or enhancements or modifications to your existing environment in order to get this to run. It just set it up, and it picks it up and goes.
I like the highlighting. And especially if you got a touch screen, because you're just going to touch it and go to what you're going to do, your touch screen applications. And of course, you got your page down over here. So you've got page up and page down. If you want to do those, shop order inquiry, select.
And again, that could be for, on-site users, if you will, within the facility, or if you have salesmen that are on the road, again, as long as they're coming in 5250 emulation, they can then pick this up and run it that way.
Any other questions for any of our presenters today? All right, well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and thank our presenters as well. Again, this webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent to all registrants before the end of the week. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.